My name is Lynn Philpott. I am the licensing business specialist here at EEC, and I will be leading you through your training today. What I'd like to do is go through how to set up your portal account in LEAD, and we'll show you the portal and step you through the application that you'll be filling out in order to receive your funded certificate. So your program monitor should have already set up your program in LEAD and sent you an invitation to the portal. If you have not gotten an invitation to the portal, please reach out to EEC and speak with your funded program monitor so that you can receive that email. Okay, so let's get started. Once your funded program monitor has set up your program in the portal, you will receive an email from LEAD welcoming you to the portal. This is what your email is going to look like. It will be from EEC LEAD, but the subject will say, "Welcome to EEC's provider portal." That's how you know that that's the right email. When you open up the email, it's pretty short. It's addressed to the designated administrator for your program. And it just basically says, "Welcome to LEAD." It gives you a link for you to click on to set up your password. And then down below, it will tell you what your username is for the portal. In most cases, your username is going to be your email address. There are a few cases where we cannot use your email address as your username. So please double check down here to make sure what your username is, so that you know exactly what to use when you log into the portal. So to set up your password, you just click on the link. If this link does not appear blue and underlined and you can't click on it, unfortunately, that would be a function of your email server, and it's not something that EEC would be able to correct. So if that happens to you, all you need to do is highlight this entire link, all 5 lines of it, and copy and paste it up here into your browser's address bar. And that will take you to the same place as it would if you could have clicked on the link. But we're going to click on the link right now. And this takes you to the Create Password page. So just like you're used to with any other site, you have to create a password and type it in again to verify. Underneath that, it tells you what the requirements are for your password. It has to be at least 8 characters long, contain a mix of numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and at least one of these special characters below. So I'm going to set up my password right now. And once I click Create Password, it's, oh my, my passwords don't match. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. It's too early in the morning, apparently, for me to type correctly. Okay, so once you do create your password, it's going to log you right into the portal. So when you do log into the portal, every time, this is what you're going to see. This is your home page. You'll see the name of your program in the upper right-hand corner, as well as a couple of other links to the home page, but right now you are on the home page. A link to your profile, and then the logout button is also up here. In this area, we do occasionally post alerts or important messages to our programs, so we do ask that you keep an eye on this every time that you log in case there's some important information that we would like you to be aware of. If you ever need to submit a support ticket for technical help, that's where you would find this information in this blue area right here. There's a link here that will take you to the page to submit a ticket. Additionally, in the left-hand column, down at the bottom, if you click Technical Help Desk, it's going to take you to the same exact place that this link would have taken you, and you can submit a help desk ticket that way as well. In this section, there's information about your program. The name of your program is here, and it displays status information about your program. The program that I'm using in the demo right now has not yet applied for their funding certificate, which is why we see a TBD funded provider status and not funded in the funding status. Down below that, this is where you can access all of the transactions that you've ever submitted to EEC. There's 4 different tabs down here. The first tab is the draft or unsubmitted tab. So when you're working on a transaction, you can find the transactions here. So if you're in the middle of working on one and you save it and want to come back to it later, this is where you'll find it. Once you submit an application or a transaction to EEC, it goes into in progress submitted status. So what this means is that you have successfully submitted your transaction to EEC, but EEC is still waiting for something from you before they can actually work on it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Once EEC has your transaction and also has everything else that it needs to begin working on it, your transaction will go into in progress under review status, and it's at this point that your funded monitor will be working on your transaction. When your transaction is processed and closed out, it will be saved under this tab, and you'll be able to see a list of all the transactions that you've ever submitted to EEC so that you'll have them for your reference. Once a transaction is in one of these 3 tabs, so after it's been submitted to EEC, you can always go back and look at it by clicking on the blue transaction ID. However, once it has been submitted to EEC, even though you can go back and look at it, you can't edit what you've sent to EEC. It's just there for your reference to read. Okay, so let's see, how do you submit your application to EEC? So applications are called transactions in LEAD. So if you want to apply for your funded certificate, you would come over to the left-hand column on your home page and click on the New Transaction button. That will take you to this page. On this page, you're going to see all the transactions that are available to you to choose from. So as a new program, you would be either able to choose the new funding application, which is what you would work on if you want to apply for your funded program certificate. Or if you choose that you do not want to go through with this process, you would click on the Close Funded Program transaction, which would notify EEC that you no longer want to care for children who receive subsidy. But the program that I'm using in my example today does want to apply for their funded program certificate, so we will click on this link here. Whenever you start a new transaction, you will get this confirmation pop-up window asking you if you're sure that's what you want to do, and we're just going to say yes. Okay, so every transaction begins with an instructions page, and it will tell you in general what the transaction is for and the things that you'll need to complete the transaction. So we ask that you do read through the instructions for whatever transaction you're using on that day. For the new funding transaction, in addition to submitting the transaction itself, there are 2 other things that are going to need to be submitted in order for the transaction to be processed. The first is a background record check consent form that has to be filled out by the designated administrator, and the second is a tax certification statement form that will also be emailed to the designated administrator, and it needs to be returned to EEC. Both of these documents will be emailed to you after you submit your transaction to EEC, and you'll electronically sign them and submit them back to EEC, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Further down in the instructions page, we talk about other documents that will eventually need to be submitted to EEC, but these are not required to process this transaction. We're just kind of giving you a heads up on the documents that will need to be uploaded to your document library later on in the process. So once you've read through the instructions, just click the next button at the bottom of the page. So the first page in this transaction is the transaction/information page. On this page, you're going to see information about your program. At the top, we see program name and address. You'll note that those fields are grayed out and we cannot edit them. You're not going to be able to change the name of your program or the address in this section, but if your address is incorrect, we do provide an area down below that for you to provide us with the correct address of your program. You can also let us know if you have a different mailing address. Underneath there, we show the umbrella or corporation information for your program. If we already have that information in the LEAD system, this is going to be pre-filled and you will not be able to edit the information that we have. If we don't have the umbrella information already in LEAD, you will be required to fill this information in. Any of the information that we don't have about the umbrella, however, you will be able to provide to us in the fields that are not grayed out. Down below that is contact information. This is information for the program, not for the umbrella. So this would be an email address for the program and the phone number for the program. We also ask for the preferred communication language for the program. And if it's not English, we ask if you can communicate in English. And then when you're ready, just click Save and Next. Okay. The next page is the Ownership Administrator Information page. So on here, we likely already have the designated administrator for your program entered into LEAD, and that information will display down here. If you need to edit this information, say if your name is spelled incorrectly or your email address is incorrect, you can click the Edit button next to the designated administrator's name and edit their name or their email address. If this designated administrator no longer is in that role or no longer works at the program, please do not change the person's name to someone else. What we ask you to do in that case would be to mark this person as inactive. If they're no longer with the program, you would just come down below and uncheck the currently active box and give us the termination date that the person left the program. If that is the case and you marked your designated administrator inactive, you would need to provide the name of the new administrator. So you would just click the Add a Contact link, and here you can give us the name of the new designated administrator. You would choose that role from this column and add it here, and then give us their name and their email address and the effective date that they took that position. Now, if we're working on this transaction and we decide that there's something else that we need to go do and we can't finish it, we can close out and come back and work on it again later. So if we log into the portal again later and we want to find that transaction that we were working on, we would go down to My Licensing Transactions area, and now we can see that in the Draft Unsubmitted area, there is a transaction that's showing up, and this is the one that we're currently working on. So if you want to go back in and start working on it again, you just click on that blue transaction ID, and that will take you right back into the transaction that you were working on, onto the page that you were last working on. So it'll take you right back to the spot where you left off. Okay, so our next page is the designation of administrator responsibility. EEC has identified several areas of responsibility within the program, and we ask that you let us know who the responsible person is. So I'm just going to go through and fill all of these out. For some of these, you do have the opportunity to mark them as not applicable. So for instance, if you don't care for school-age children, you would mark that as not applicable, and you can just give us a reason as why you mark that as not applicable. And then when you're done, go on to the next page. Okay. On this page, this is the capacity information page. We ask for the current total capacity of your program. If there's a capacity or an age group that you don't care for, we ask that you put a 0 in that age group. You can't leave it blank because you'll notice that these are all starred with a red asterisk, meaning that they're required fields. And LEAD will figure out the capacity for you. You don't have to add it up. We then ask for the ages in years and months of the children that you accept in your program. And you just choose those from the drop-down list. The next page deals with the operation details of your program. So we ask what types of hours you accept children for. Do you operate full-day programs, half-day morning, half-day afternoon? Do you offer extended day options, etc.? So for each one of those, if you say that, yes, I do provide full-day programs, if you answer yes, it's going to ask you what days you operate, so you just check them off. And then it's going to ask for a start time and an end time. If you answer no, obviously it's not going to have you provide the days and times. If you offer extended days, it will give you the option to do option 1 and option 2. So say you do extended days mornings and extended days in the afternoon. That's why we have 2 options here. We ask about other services. So if there's a drop-in service, evening service, you can tell us about those. If you serve meals, all of these, if you answer yes, we do ask that you provide a little additional information about that. Additionally, if you've ever been involved with EEC legal action, we would want to know a little bit more about that. And if you have a gym facility that you use for your program, if you answer yes about that, we're going to also ask for a little bit more information regarding that. Okay, we're getting near the end. The next page is about the indoor and outdoor space that you use. So the first thing we want to know about is the square footage inside, the number of toilets, the number of sinks. We want to know if, regarding lead paint, if you were built prior to July 1st, 1978. What the maximum building capacity is mentioned during your building inspection. We need the expiration date on your building inspection and on your health inspection. The issue date of your fire inspection certificate and your integrated pest management. Also, we want to know where you get your drinking water from, if it's from a private water supply or town water supply. If it's a private water supply, we ask for the private water test date and the public water source number. If it's town water, we don't ask for any more information. Next is the amount of outdoor square footage For the outdoor play area, if you have a pool, we ask for the date of the pool inspection. And also, if it's an indoor pool, we will ask for the date of the latest pool roof inspection. If you use an off-site outdoor play location, we ask how you transport the children there, if they walk or if they take a van. And if the program provides transportation, we ask if this is program-owned transportation or if it's subcontracted. And then there's one last question, if you're using any other additional space for the program. And then we click Save and Next. This attachments page really doesn't apply to this transaction. You don't have any attachments that you'll need to submit. Any documentation that you'll be sending to EEC, you'll be sending through your document library, so you can just skip over this page. Okay, so now we're on the summary and submission page. This page just is what it says. It first summarizes all of the information that you entered. We do ask that you review it to make sure that it's accurate. If you see something that needs to be changed, now's the time to go back and edit it, because as I mentioned a little while ago, you will not have the option to edit your application once you click the submit button and send it to EEC. So you can click on the navigation bar here to go back to a particular page, or you can use the previous buttons down at the bottoms of the pages to get back to where you need to go. But if everything looks good, you go down to the bottom of the page and we have a terms and conditions section that we ask if you, for you to read through. Once you've read through and if you agree, you'll need to click off this checkbox to indicate that you've read it, because you'll notice I haven't checked it off yet, but the I agree submit button is not lit up for me to be able to click on it. So without checking this off, I cannot submit my application. But once I check that off, now this I agree submit button is blue, and I can now click that to submit my application to EEC. So I am ready to submit. And I will get a notification that says my transaction has been submitted successfully. Okay, so this takes me back to my home page. And if I look down at my licensing transactions, I can see that my draft area now has no transactions in it, but my in progress submitted tab does have a transaction in it. And this is our transaction that we're working on. So this means that I have sent my application to EEC, but it's only in submitted status, which means that EEC is still waiting for something from me. So what could it be waiting for? Well, in the instructions, you might remember that it said that I was going to have to supply a background check form from the designated administrator and also a tax certification form. So that's why your transaction is still in submitted status, because we have not sent those two forms to EEC yet. So if you check your email, those forms come right away after you submit your transaction. So this is my designated administrator's email address, and I can see my two emails here. They've come already. So the first one, they're both from EEC Lead Alert. The first one says Department of Early Education and Care licensing transaction successfully submitted. And the second one also says Department of Early Education and Care, Lynn Administrator. This is my designated administrator's name. BRC consent form is ready for signature. So if we click on the first one that says licensing transaction successfully submitted, we can see the transaction number here. And it tells us that a tax certification is required to complete the submission of my application. So it explains a little bit about why we need this form. It tells us that we're not going to be able to process the application until we get it. And then there's a link to the form so that you can fill it out electronically. So if we click on the link, it brings us into DocuSign. So you're going to have to enter your name and your email address. In order to sign the form. Okay, so the tax certification form is pretty simple. Your program name will already be filled in. If the corporate name is different, you'll have the option to fill that out as well. You'll see that there's a red field here that is a required field. And here, the Social Security number that's used by the program or the federal tax ID number has to be entered. So both of those are 9-digit numbers. So whatever the tax ID number is that is used by your program has to be entered here. And then you click here to sign the document. I already had a signature set up, but if you didn't, when you click here, it will give you an option. It shows you how it's going to sign, and you can change the format of your signature, or you can choose to sign with your mouse. Once you've done that, you can click Finish up at the top, or there's a Finish button down at the bottom. And now that document has been sent to EEC. You will get another email that confirms that you have completed that tax certification statement, and it will send you a copy. Attached to this email is a copy of the document that you signed so that you have that for your records. Okay, so the second document that you needed to fill out was the background check form for the designated administrator. This is what that email looks like. And there is a link to the background check form in here. So once again, the designated administrator has to fill out their name and email address in order to get into DocuSign. And this is what the background check form looks like. So your name will already be pre-filled. If you have a middle name or a suffix, you can fill that out. If you have any other names that you have been known by, such as aliases, maiden names, hyphenated names, any other variations of your names, you'll need to fill them out down below here. Aliases for first names and last names as well. If you don't have any former names, you'll need to check off this checkbox because you can see these first two are required. But if you don't have any other names, if you check it off, it takes away that requirement. You'll need to enter the last 6 digits of your Social Security number because that is a required field. If you have never been issued a Social Security number, you can check this checkbox to let us know that, and it will take away that requirement. We'll need your date of birth, the city that you were born in, the state you were born in, and the country that you were born in. Your current address. And your mailing address. But if your mailing address is the same as your residential address, there's a checkbox here which saves some typing. Okay. EEC also needs to know if you've lived out of state during the last 5 years. If you have, you'll need to check this box, and that will open up these fields so that you can type in them and let us know where you've lived out of state. Okay, so you're basically done with the form. You'll need to read through the acknowledgments here. and then you can sign. So you just click there to sign. There are 3 places to sign because there's 3 different acknowledgement sections. So you just click on each 3 and then click finish. And again, that will send your form right back to EEC. And just like with the tax certification statement, you will get a completed BRC consent form email letting you know that your form was completed, and it contains a copy of your background check forms that you filled out and sent to us so that you can have that for your records. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get to EEC, but once those documents have been received by EEC, your transaction is going to move from the In Progress tab to the Under Review tab. When you need to submit other documents to EEC, you will submit them through the document library, and the link is over here on the left. So to do that, you would just click the document library link. And EEC has defined several document types that we are looking for from your program. As I mentioned earlier, these are not required as part of the transaction, but they will be required as your process moves forward. So this is where you'll be uploading your documents. To do that, to upload, say you wanted to upload a copy of your building inspection, you would click the Manage Documents link. Click Select Attachment. You would find the document that you're looking for on your computer. You click Upload, and then click Save. Once you do that, you can see in the building inspection that my status used to be unsubmitted, but now it's submitted, and there's an upload date. And if I click on the document type name, I can see the document that I have submitted, so you know that it went through. And then your monitor will also be able to see these documents and will be able to review them. So that's how you upload documents into your library. You can upload more than one document underneath each document type. Sometimes that's necessary. The maximum document size that LEAD allows you to upload is 3 megabytes. So if you have a really large policy that needs to be uploaded and it's bigger than 3 megabytes, you might need to break it up into pieces. Also, if you have something, even like a 1-page or like a building inspection, it's not a good idea to try to take a picture of it on, say, your phone, because photos can be very large, and a lot of times even a single photo can exceed that 3 megabyte file size. So we do ask if you have something that's even like 1 page, that you use something like a scanner app on your phone, because they use much smaller file sizes, and then LEAD will accept the files. Okay, so that is the end of our training. I hope that this has been helpful to you. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to your monitors, and they will be able to assist you. Thanks for being here.